Hello, friends, and welcome to Escaping the Mouse with your host, me, Breck Roll. All right, so I kind of made a decision a couple weeks ago that it wasn't going to be possible to do a daily vlog just focusing on what's going on in the apartment and the repairs that are being made, and a few food vlogs and a few restaurant vlogs. It just wasn't going to cover it. I knew about 2 weeks ago that I was going to have to start doing more field trippy type vlogs. So about that time, I subscribed to a Facebook page that presented a bunch of like historical documents and stuff like that from the city of Waco. And one thing kept popping up over and over again, and that is that there was a really severe tornado that blew through Waco, Texas on May 11th, 1953. It killed more than 100 people, and the people of Waco have decided to put some monuments up in the area to commemorate the event, and some of them look really impressive. So I think we're going to go down and take a look at those today. Why don't you come along? I think this is going to be fun. So this is one of the first monuments I wanted to find. This is the first one I actually heard of, and I'd looked this up on Google Maps, so I knew it was here. Basically, this just commemorates the tornado that happened on May 11th, 1953. In fact, here's what it says. On May 11th, 1953, one of the deadliest tornadoes in United States history descended on downtown Waco and shook the soul of a community. This commemorative honors the memory of the 114 people who died in that storm and celebrates the spirit of the community that survived. And on the back of the same memorial is the name of all the victims. So here we are at the actual location where the tornado came through this part of town. This big building, the Alico building right now, was there at the time, and it actually survived the damage because it was more metal frame than wood frame. But a building just on the other side of those trees over there was called the R.T. Dennis Furniture Store. It was a 6-story wood frame building that basically collapsed during the tornado because the tornado literally went right through there, and there were 30 people inside that died when the building collapsed, and actually a couple people that were driving their cars outside on the street died when the building fell on top of them. Now, as a result of the fact that buildings like this survived and other buildings didn't, the city of Waco quickly updated building codes to require there be a metal framework in buildings like this. So it all starts on May 11th, 1953, at about 4:10 in the afternoon, southwest of Waco, in a town called near a little town called Lorena. The tornado first hit the ground there. Quickly grew into a 1/3 mile wide F5 tornado that ripped right through this section of Waco. In fact, you can see that building in the background there. That was the old Roosevelt Hotel. That was another building that survived. But where this parking lot is right now, that was where that R.T. Dennis Furniture building was, and there were a lot of deaths right here. So this F5 tornado that went through here is predicted to have winds of up to 260 miles an hour and cut a 23-mile long swath of destruction through the center of Waco, Texas. In the end, 114 people died, 597 were injured, and 600 houses were destroyed, 1,000 houses and buildings were damaged, and there were about $41 million worth of damage done to the city. They predict now that that's probably about $500 million in today's dollars. But what I really came to see was this thing. These are a couple of sculptures. Now the ones I've seen, the wind has been blowing and they spin more. This one here is spinning a little bit, but it's kind of a slow, not moving, windy day today. So this is a little memorial plaque that was put in place for these sculptures here. It says these sculptures are by artist Mark White, commemorate the tornado of May 11, 1953 that devastated downtown Waco and the heroic citizens who worked tirelessly to rebuild the city. And they got 3 of them. They're each given a name. There's a 15-foot oscillator and a 16-foot oscillator, and then the little one called the passion flower. And the passion flower seems to be the one that's spinning right now. So they're saying one of the things that kind of contributed to making this such a deadly storm was the time that it happened. It was just at the time where everybody was kind of getting off of work, so everybody was on the road, and the rain was so thick that that there was a cloud of rain surrounding the tornado, so people couldn't even see it coming. And all of a sudden, boom, it was just right on top of them. I mean, if you know anything about tornadoes, an F5 tornado is the most powerful one there is. They call them an EF5 now, but this was back in the 50s, so it was still just the old standard at that point. But when you think about the fact that this parking lot used to be a furniture store that is no longer here, and there were 2 other businesses that were here also that collapsed. So yeah, this is pretty amazing. And of course, that's the Alico building right now, where it, and that was one of the few things that survived. And then of course this Roosevelt building behind me also survived. So it's really kind of sobering to consider how big of a storm that F5 was when it blew through this whole area and killed a whole bunch of people. It had such a profound effect on the city of Waco that it actually affected their economy for more than a decade afterwards. I was also reading that the Dr. Pepper Museum is just a couple miles from here, and the building that we visited a few weeks ago was actually damaged in that tornado, and they had to do some repairs there. Now, I noticed one more thing as I was kind of coming back to do my wrap up here, and that is that sometimes you got to look down when you're walking around in these places, because I found another piece of greatness right out here in front of this memorial. There's this little thing on the ground that says, "In this spot in 1885, Dr. Pepper, the nation's oldest major soft drink, was invented in an old corner store." Right here. So if you like Dr. Pepper, this is where it all started. So we're actually back to the Dr. Pepper Museum here, just because we were so close and I wanted to go see if we could see any of the damage that happened. Because see that big building there? That's the Alico building. That building over there. That one right there is the old Roosevelt. So yeah, we're very, very close to this. And since the tornado would have gone that way, it makes sense that the damage to the building would be on this side. Now, they said they fixed it, but it's possible, since this is such an old building, that perhaps this discoloration of the bricks here is part of what happened. Because it does look, especially over here, like there's been some bowing out of the bricks a little bit. So I don't know if that's where the damage occurred during the tornado or not, but that definitely could be it. Alright, so I came back to the Dr. Pepper Museum to try and find the damage, and I thought that place that I was looking at on the other side of the building was it. So I decided I was going to come in here and talk to one of the curators here and see if they could answer it. But right before I got to that, I found this that specifically discusses the 1953 tornado, and it says you can see the damage still on Mary Street, which is where we were. That's what we were looking at. So yes, that was absolutely the damage that occurred from the 1953 tornado. It's very fascinating. In fact, now that I look closer, here's the actual picture of the building after the tornado. You can see Chip and Joanna's silos, even though they weren't here. Even though Chip and Joanna weren't here, the silos still were. That is amazing. So yeah, now back to comparing that old picture. Basically everything from this diagonal piece down all the way across was basically just completely destroyed in the tornado and rebuilt. So that's really fascinating. So if the Magnolia Farm silos are that old that they're in old pictures from the tornado, kind of makes you wonder how old those things really are, huh? They do look like they've been around here for more than 60 years, so it doesn't surprise me. I guess we'll find that out at some point when we go visit them. So as I was walking around the Dr. Pepper Museum, this is kind of in the back of it. I see this structure of all these cargo containers. I don't know what this is all about, but it seems like there should be a story to this. They're all kind of welded together into this weird structure. I'm gonna keep walking around and see what we can see. So yeah, no idea what this is. It appears to be attached to the Dr. Pepper Museum itself, but I don't know, they're doing some weird art exhibit here with all sorts of used cargo containers. Don't know what it's about, but apparently it's for lease. That's right, you too can work here for as little as $1,300 a month. Okay, yeah, now so there's a sign that kind of says what's going on here. Interesting. And that's the inside of the building, I guess. You can have office space up there too, I guess, if you want. So I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. I actually found it quite an interesting learning experience because I knew that it happened down here, but it's really weird to kind of be in the place and see where it happened and see the results and how it impacted people. And it was a really interesting kind of serendipitous that we were able to find that damage to the Dr. Pepper Museum itself, which is, 0.2 of a mile away. So I really hope you enjoyed this. Thank you as always for watching, and I will see you next time on Escaping the Mouse. Good night.